Because I know there's a limited amount of acreage out there, but I do want to point out, well, I'm going to make it brief because we have the opportunity, thanks to Jerry Anderson, to go to a field. So actually we're going to close this down here in a couple of minutes and actually go to an alfalfa field and look at the problem that we're talking about. So if you're interested, we're going to caravan out that way and we can talk about it when we all adjourn. But basically what I want to talk just briefly about is the fact that we're having a lot of blue alfalfa aphid problems again this year. It's a problem I have never seen at this level in my career. Blue alfalfa aphid's always usually out there, but last year was a pretty bad year in distributed spots. This year in the Dos Palos, Los Banos area has come up very, very strong, as early as many people have seen. So it's on a lot of the new seedling growth, and it's high populations. Well, why is that a big issue? It's a big issue because, one, it's a drouthy situation. We've all heard about that today. But on alfalfa, it's also stressing the plant. So you got to remember what alfalfa is doing is it's growing and putting a lot of stuff into its roots so that when you cut it, it's got a lot of reserve and it'll come back up strongly. So what we're doing is not only affected because the water and the rainfall is down, but also those pesky aphids are there stressing it out and taking out moisture. But that's not all it does. It's injecting a toxin that's affecting both the growth now and into subsequent, possibly one, definitely one, and possibly two cuttings down the road, particularly on the smaller stuff. So it's a real problem. It's a real problem also because our options are very, very limited. Our first form is prevention. First form of defense is prevention. So most everybody's, my guess, is buying and using alfalfa that has tolerance built in for blue alfalfa aphid and for spotted alfalfa aphid. But that seems to be overwhelmed. So why do we have a problem? Some people will say, well, we got a new biotype. Well, we've got a breakdown in the resistance of alfalfa. We got resistance in our insecticide use, or the insecticides we're using. We don't know why it's a problem. We do know that it's a numbers game, that if you have a threshold of 20 per stem and you've got 100 per stem and you spray it at 90% efficiency, you're still going to be over the threshold. We know that no matter how much resistance you have in there, if you pound that thing hard enough, it's probably going to affect the plant. But I will say that the Australians have identified a biotype that is breaking, a biotype of blue alfalfa aphid, that is breaking the tolerance and resistance they have down there. What I don't know is what that biotype, what it means, and two, if their varieties and their resistance and their genetics are the same as ours. So there's a lot of questions right now. Personally, one of my strong beliefs is it's because it's been 2 dry winters in a row. And really where we have rain and just moisture in general. Today's a great day where you have fog out there, things stay wet, you're going to have warm temperatures. We're going to get the fungus beginning to build up again, and it's going to go through fairly quickly if we maintain these conditions. But the problem is, again, is if you have such high numbers, what are you going to do if all these things are working together but still not lowering that number? Bottom line is people are beginning to treat. In alfalfa, unlike wonderful almonds, there are very, very few registrations on selective reduced materials. In fact, there's almost none. For aphids, there are none. So that leaves us with all the products that are on this do not use list. And that's life. And that's what was stated with try not to. But if you've got, it's going to be organophosphates and it's going to be carbamates are going to be being employed and are being employed and trying to manage this particular problem. We're trying some other things as well. There's a bunch of informal tests going on. One going on tomorrow in Kern County. Informal, by that I mean someone's putting it on and I'll try and chase behind it and just try and measure what's going on, but they're using a lot of the harsh products to try and see how well they can manage it. We're going to be working with Marone Bioscience to look at Grandival, which is a product that's not been used. It's been used on aphids and vegetables with some good response, not so under these heavy conditions of alfalfa aphid, but we're trying to see if we can drive them down and see if the product works as well. It's a very selective, it's actually a registered organic product, but it's been used in conventional ag as well. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to track this thing, we're trying to manage it. So what we're going to do is go on up and look at this field and and do some informal talking as well. On the cotton issue, the only thing I have to say is we'll revisit this issue again for those who have cotton, the 3 of you, 2 of you, 1 of you, who have cotton this year. There are some cotton growers who will grow it regardless of how little water there is. And that is about sticky cotton. It kind of was a problem in certain areas last year in the San Joaquin Valley. So we'll be holding a series of meetings around June to remind everybody about, we don't mess around with whitefly. We get in there and we treat it right when it needs to be treated. We don't let that population grow. But again, that's a situation where if you're getting into the August period and you have aphid and/or whitefly, chlorpyrifos lorsban is the material that you really need to get into that canopy and beat back if you get to that stage. So where it's needed, I don't know exactly why. I won't go into this. Marcia can talk about it at some point when she meets with you individually. If one reports that they use these products, if there's an explanation that's required or not. And frankly, I think the explanation is I had no other choice if that's the situation. Over threshold, few choices, got to go do what we got to go do. And then of course you follow the label that all mitigating factors were followed. Like I always say, it's legal and moral, and it's moral, ethical, and non-fattening, so you're free to do it. Anyway, that's what I had, and for those who want to go and go out this alfalfa field, Jerry's going to lead us, and
Merrill and Brandon.
Merrill and
Brandon.
Brand?
Brandon and
Brandon. Okay, Merrill and Brandon is where he's going to be going. It's going to take me a couple minutes to shut down, so I'd say we plan to leave here about 12:15. All right, thank you very much from my standpoint.
Before you go, we need to get a meeting evaluation from all of
Pete,
you.
with all the fallowing that's going to occur this year, what do we anticipate for a pest year?
Less? I think it'll be less,
think so?
except where people are letting their alfalfa go in the midsummer. Figure if you're not going to irrigate your alfalfa because you're going to let it go during the dry months, very dry months, think of it as a safflower field. They'll be chock full of stuff that'll be moving around. Some of it'll be good, some of it'll be bad.
Do sheep piss the bugs off? I mean, instead of getting in and disking it, if you let these sheep herders, because they're looking for feed, if you give up on your hay field and feed it down, or are they just not going to drive them out by chewing it down?
Yeah, it'll help. But why, if it's drying down, everything's going to move out while it's drying down. Yeah. It could, my guess is it's going to be, anything in that alfalfa field is going to want to move. We know what's in an alfalfa field. Lots of good things and some horrific bad things.
There'll be a lot of fields that just don't start getting farmed, and they'll be empty, and as long as they don't let weeds go.
Exactly. Thus far, that hasn't been a problem. That's the whole thing. If we don't get any more or enough, then it's just going to cook off. My overall feeling is it's probably going to be less because there's less things that can infest.
Yeah. Hopefully there's enough empty places in between, they just can't move around too much.
Tough one is trying to manage the alfalfa when you got to find some water and you got to, the price will be good. The demand's going to be up or down depending upon whether the dairymen give up or not.
They get good prices right now.
Huh?
They have real good prices right now.
What are they at?
For milk?
Oh, milk.
No. Yeah, alfalfa. Yeah,
Milk?
Jack.
Yeah, it's,
Thank you. Barbara was due.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
but they're
Might be good
really
to-
high price right
We'll
now.
take a look. I know that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can help, get.
Well, it'll be easy.
Thanks.
I didn't fill one out. Oh, okay. I've got to turn one in, but I
don't
can.
want to do that, but that's
We'll,
Oh, you're very welcome. I got it in my hand. I got to do something.
thank you very much.
Not a problem for me to look at those slides again?
you'd have them.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need. There's nothing. It's all public information. There's
Perfect,
nothing in there.
perfect. That's some good data there.
Yeah.
How much of the groundwater program is developed yet?
Not almost none of it. We're just now starting to look at getting some consultants in to do groundwater assessment. The groundwater assessment is what will identify this ground is vulnerable. This